Jack a diamond, Jack a diamond, and I know you owe you from my poor pockets of silver and gold. It's whiskey you've villain, you've been my downfall. You've kicked me, you've cuffed me, but I love you for all. Whiskey, rye, whiskey, whiskey, I cry. If I don't get right, whiskey, well, I think I will die.
Cursed Whiskey Rye. 'Twas the day before Christmas, in years before, when times weren't so hard and our family was poor. That was long before now we could still laugh and be silly, but that was before we lost little Jilly. It was a few hours past midday, and the sun was just sinking. Mother'd been baking, father'd been drinking, and he jumped in his car. He had somewhere to go, but he never saw Jilly playing out in the snow. When out on the lawn there arose such a clatter, I sprang from the floor to see what was the matter, for I heard her poor cries as the day turned to night, and I heard his car roar as he drove out of sight. And I found her there, in the snow and the mud, and poor Jilly broken in a pool of her blood. We lost little Jilly. I saw her die. And it's all the fault of that cursed whiskey rye. 'Twas the day before Christmas, the very next year, and no one would even believe that Christmas was near. Mom and Dad weren't the same with Jilly not there. Mother was wary and cried more than her share. And they fought more than not in impassioned brawl, but sometimes they wouldn't speak at all. Father was distant and sullen, and seemed to not even try, and he drowned all his sorrows in that cursed whiskey rye. So as I saw him awake from a long winter's nap, I smiled at him sweetly as I sat on his lap. "Please, Daddy," I begged, "I don't know where it's been, but please make Christmas come back again." He spoke not a word, and he sat there with a sigh, and he brushed back the hair that had covered my eye, and he gave me a hug and set me on the floor, and with that he got up and went right out the door. 'Twas the night before Christmas, and now all through the shack, Mother was pacing and nervous. Dad wasn't back. He had said not a word, not even goodbye, and was probably out drinking that cursed whiskey rye. And Mother decided she knew of her fate, and she prophesied this as the evening turned late. "It will be from that man I will surely die, and it will be all because of that cursed whiskey rye." He never returned. I waited all night. I stared out of the window till the first morning light, and I remembered that hug. Now it felt like a lie, for I only cared about his cursed whiskey rye. 'Twas a whole Christmas later. A whole year had passed, and the weather outside was turning chilly at last. The hot days went cold as the north winds blew, but the emptiness was biting, for now we were two. And Mother was quiet. She had too much to bear, but her words from before so often would share. "It will be from that man I will surely die, and it will be all because of that cursed whiskey rye." She was never the same and let go of her health, and I'd spent the whole year taking care of myself and making the soup that I forced her to eat, and now in this chill I would try to find heat. So I went to the fireplace, but the logs wouldn't light, and I tried, but the chimney was plugged up tight, and I wasn't quite sure what exactly to do. So I pulled at the damper and I poked at the flue, when all of a sudden I heard a loud crash, and the clog in the chimney came down in a flash. I heard my mom scream, and the noise shook my core. I turned round to see her fall dead on the floor. And her eyes, wide in terror, were frozen and dire. In lifeless gaze, she stared at the fire. And I swung back to see where this terror began, and there he was, a lifeless frame of a man. And his bones settled down with a maddening clack. His eyes were all hollow, deep pockets of black. Within a blink of my eye and a twist of my head soon gave me to know that this Santa was dead. On his head was a hat like a Santa might wear, hanging stray on a skull that had long since had hair. In his right hand was a doll, maybe a gift to supply, and the left hand held a bottle of the cursed whiskey rye.
Jack a diamond, and I know you owe you from my poor pockets of silver and gold. It's a whiskey, you villain, you've been my downfall. You've kicked me, you've cut me, but I love you for all. Whiskey, rye whiskey.